Hi, welcome to the video tutorial for the lesson. It's got a couple of names: Best Desk, the New Desk, and it's a very practical, active data handling lesson. There are several of those in the Thinking Maths resources, and they're very, very interesting, very active, very practical. And a few years ago, I found this one easy to do when my children were younger, because one of my children asked for a pink desk. And the scenario is that you're going to be given a new desk and you've got to think about what's important for it for you. It was easy with my daughter because it's just pink. So her auntie and uncle bought her a desk from IKEA and painted pink, and she got it for Christmas. So I might tell them that, or I might put an image up of it. There is an image of someone looking at different desks. I mean, desks are all around. You've got this desk that I've been using, so children are familiar with them. They've got them in the classroom, so they've got experience of the desk, but you want them to think about desks in several different ways. So when you ask the children what's important for them about the desk, they say things like colour, material, what it's made out of. They want locks on it, they want drawers, they want cupboards, they want places for their drinks, they want places to put their laptop and things like that. Sometimes a child will, and you will always get this in the class, someone will say something like it has to fit that touches upon an aspect of measure. So once you've got some feedback, I would say to them, okay, this seems very mathematical to us. What do we mean by fit? And often you then might get size, and you can then begin to quantify what we mean by size, such as length, width, and height. And in the introduction, one of the things I mentioned was don't take anything for granted. And I think this lesson's a really interesting example of that. The children will tell you these dimension words, length, width and height, but don't assume they understand what they are. So the task I now give them, which is I really enjoy, is to say, okay, we think length, width and height are important in a desk. So what I'd like you to do is sketch a desk to show me what you mean by length, width and height, but you can't write on it, you can't annotate it, you can't label it, you've just got to draw the desk. And give them a piece of scrap paper and let them draw the desk. And this gets very, very interesting because you get a range of responses. To some, draw the desk they'd like. Others start to try and draw a desk with 3 dimensions, but very few of them actually do. In a class of 30, you might get 5. If you don't tell them, you just say, I'm wondering if you can draw a desk to show me length, width and height. I mean, some children draw that, some will draw variations of that. But once they've drawn them, I think it's a good time to get them up and out, where you say to them, look, walk around the class, and I want you to look at the desks and decide which one best shows length, width and height. And give them time to do that and have a discussion. Because what is really, really interesting, because you're asking them, they know these words, they've seen desks, but you're asking them to draw desks to represent measurements in relation to themselves, as well as how you would draw it on a 2D space. So it's a really rich discussion, and often they'll say things like, well, this is 3D, and you say, well, hang on, it's flat. What do you mean it's 3D? And they start explaining that because of the angles it looks, you can see the sides properly. But what is really interesting is having this debate about height, length and width, and how you would show that on this drawing of the desk. Once the children have voted on the best desk to show length, width and height, they'll pick something like this. So the next part of the discussion is for them to tell you how you would annotate this desk. So often height's pretty straightforward, so you do that as height. Length and width, it's really interesting how you ask this. If they agree this is length, that's fine. They could agree it's width, it doesn't really matter. But it's the other one. They find it really difficult to think in 3 dimensions. So this could be width or length. And then so you say, right, so we've got the 3 dimensions, height, width and length. You say, okay, I would always pick at this point someone who's smaller than me and say, well, actually, a desk for me is going to be very different to a desk for Sahir or Charlie. How could we show, if we were going to be measured for a desk, because that's what you're going to ask them to do, is do some measuring. We're going to be measured for a desk. How would I show height? How would I show length? How would I show width? See, this is where it becomes very, very active, because they've got to actually think about the dimensions in relation to themselves. So often, they might call that one length. Okay, so length is the long dimension. Width, well, sometimes it can take 5 minutes. Some of them talk about how wide they are. Some of them, they find it really difficult to say that's width. Height, often you say, look, I want you to pretend you're sitting down and rest your hands on the desk. So that's height. So then you can do a bit of exercise where you say, show me length. You get the whole class to stand up. That's length, that's width, that's height. So what you then ask them to do is, on your little sketch, you're going to write down your measurements. So you give them a tape measure, 1 between 2, and they've got to measure their personal lengths, widths, and heights, and write them down. Measurement is a really interesting aspect of maths. And there's a lot of research, particularly by Teresina Nunes and Peter Bryant, that talks about the measuring system isn't straightforward. Children count from a very early stage, and for a lot of children, often the problem with maths is it just begins with counting. And really, the counting system doesn't introduce zero. So there's a lot of activities for children in year 1, 2 and 3 that focus on measuring. Because the measurement system brings in zero, it brings in scale, it brings in fractions, halfway, rather than this abstraction that we share with the children from the very earliest stage. It also brings in ratio, how much further. So measuring is really interesting, and children will say things like, I can't measure myself, I'm bigger than the ruler, how do I do it? And it's a lovely time to get them to work in pairs to solve these problems. So you would then have, each child would say their height is 62, their width is 40, and their length is 100, say. So you then say to them, okay, I'm going to put you into groups now. I'd like you 3 to work together, you 4 to work together, you 5 to work together. So you end up with groups of odd and even numbered pupils, and you say to them, take your lengths, widths and heights, order them and find the middle. So what the pupils would then do is they'd order their heights x, y, z, x, y, z, x, y, z, could even be b here. And they've got to find the middle. You don't specify whether you're talking about the median or the mean. You let them decide. And this is where there's lots of interesting teaching can come from it, because some of them will say, well, there's 3 there. It's easy for them to find the middle. You just pick the middle one. We were 4. We can't find the middle of an even number. Can you not? Because I think it's important with children become very fixed in the way that they handle data. They just find the average. And actually, sometimes the average or the mean isn't very good. So, for example, say a Russian oligarch moved into the area, the average wage would go up, but really, does that mean everyone's earning more money? So I think we really want to make children think about how you handle data and the best techniques for handling data. So it's a lovely time for them to work in groups, to collect their results together, put them in order, communicate together, and find the middle. And then you can have a really interesting discussion about what was the middle. Is it median? Is it mean? Does it matter? And let's say we're just finding the middle. The middle is the median. We're going to find the median. So you can tell them these terms after you've given this ambiguity a bit of ambiguity. And so each group would then read out their middle. And so you could then find the middle of all the middles for the class. So it might be that you come up with a value for the class middle. The class middle for height, it could be 64. For length, I'm just making these up, it could be 110. And for width, it could be 57. You see, right, so now we've got the best desk for this class. Yeah, it's the middle desk, it's the middle of all the middles. Let's check it with a real desk. And often what you'll find is there's a very big difference between the measurements for a real desk and their measurements. And obviously there's lots of reasons for that, and you want the children to explore why is there a difference between our middle and the class desk? Is there a problem with the way we sampled, the way we did the work? How did they find the middle of all the desks? How did the desk company find their measurements? What did they do? It might be that the middle of a bigger sample, so the desk might suit from year 5 all the way up to year 13. So you're getting to a situation now where a desk to suit everybody suits nobody. And actually in life there's quite a lot of measurements like that, where the measurement to suit everyone, it's fine when I go in and buy clothes. I can go in and buy a pair of size 10 shoes. In sales, I can never get anything because all the ones that are the commonest measurement have gone. What about airbags in cars? If you're very small and you're sitting very close to the wheel, there's a problem with airbags. And I recently heard of a child who knew someone had been injured because they were very small, they sat very close to the car, to the wheel, and the airbag didn't protect them in an accident. So you're really challenging the children to think about how we do averages, how we do middles, and the problems with that. So the idea is a measurement to suit everybody might not suit anybody at all. There might be problems because there's a range, and picking a middle might be problematic, but there are situations where we do need to pick a middle. So this discussion can go in lots of different ways based on the fact that it's real data from the children. But at the end, it's always worth giving them something else to think about. So here we've done a technique where we found the middle. That's quite a good thing to do, isn't it? But say there's a new school being built or a new hotel being built. How do we design the heights of the doors in the new school? How do we design the lengths of the beds in the new school? How can we do that? That's a piece of homework or work that you can do later. Obviously, you can't have a middle height of a door because I couldn't get through it. I couldn't lie in a middle height bed. It would be too short. So what techniques do we do to find what can we do to find those measurements? So it's a very rich, a very active lesson, and depending on the measuring, you will not finish. But it's always lovely to share these things with the pupils and to even come up with your own reflective questions and to go away and think about what measurements in your house are middle measurements, what measurements in life aren't. So doors aren't middle measurements. What are those measurements?